we as humans are such infinitely complex creatures, from our innate social structures to our ability to reason and critically think, to our art that we create and our desire to build culture. It can be difficult to understand ourselves, and this is why we have tools such as meditation, therapy, to help us guide a deeper understanding of ourselves. But this complexity can also lend itself to a difficulty in understanding others. Yet, despite this difficulty and its foundation in human complexity, we share 99.9% of the same genetic makeup as the person sitting next to us. And when you consider how similar we are, and you compare that to cultural and systemic issues that our species faces on a day-to-day basis, like socialism versus capitalism, the Ukraine and Russia war, the Israel-Palestine conflict, bipartisanship, all of these problems, when looked at simultaneously, they take a childish form and they appear inconsequential. And this is not at all to say that they are inconsequential. The tragedies that affect the millions and millions of people daily because of these pseudo-differences is of the utmost importance. And in fact, the entire purpose of this discussion is to elucidate the fact that allowing these pseudo-differences to grow out of hand poses the gravest danger to our global society that is expanding and unifying more than ever before in history due to technological advancements, rapid globalization. That is to say that the suffering experienced on either side of all of these ideological dichotomies should be taken with the utmost seriousness. Furthermore, it is important to realize that these differences do exist. And it is because of how tangible these differences are that it is our responsibility as a collective society to identify the foundation of these disputes. That is, if we would like to make any clarifying or unifying progress. The seed of every argument is planted in misunderstanding. All people share the same basic needs, that is, food, shelter, financial stability, happiness, a creative outlet, self-actualization. As a race, we share 99.9% of the same DNA. It is our responsibility to locate that final 1% difference. Our similarities alone justify bridging the gap in misunderstanding. There is a famous quote by John Steinbeck, and he says, "Try to understand men. If you understand each other, you will be kind to each other. Knowing a man well never leads to hate, and almost always leads to love." So, one question remains. How do we know a man well? Typology, for all intents and purposes, is essentially the study of personality psychology, which deals with categorizing humans and the human experience into certain groups based on shared characteristics, the way that you interact with the environment and display your identity, certain skills that you may tend to be naturally good at based on cognitive activity, or it may be what kind of values, beliefs, or opinions we may hold based on our predispositions. Now, there are many different systems and models that currently exist attempting to describe these beautifully complex experiences. But the ones that seem to have the most validity, in my view, are the ones that use what are now called cognitive functions, which are abstract mental processes derived from the groundwork laid in Carl Jung's book, Psychological Types. So the question now becomes, how does typology help us meet the ends that we set out to achieve at the beginning of this video? In the broader context of societal issues like political polarization, ideological conflicts, using typology as a tool can illuminate what is the foundation of these disagreements. It allows us to recognize that there are diverse perspectives which essentially stem from different cognitive approaches that are innate, inborn within us, rather than believing that there is some kind of inherent malevolence or ignorance. The beauty in this is that it can pave the way for more constructive dialogue. I believe this can be especially relevant in today's society in addressing issues like bipartisanship, global conflicts, and economic ideologies. But in order to reach such a global impact, we have to start with small steps. There is a quote by Confucius that can loosely be translated to, "I wanted to set right the world, and I realized I first had to set right the nation. And before the nation, my town. And before the town, my family. But before my family, myself." The difficulties that we face when trying to understand ourselves and bridge the gaps between individuals are deeply profound. It is my belief that these typological models can offer equally profound insights into human interaction and shed light on some of those beautiful complexities that inherently shape our perceptions and our predispositions. These frameworks provide a structured way to explore the nuances of individual personality. They foster self-awareness and empathy, which I believe will pave the way for a broader understanding and therefore unity and harmony. As I mentioned earlier, there are many systems that exist within this community. Because of how beautifully complex the human experience is and the multitude of these variables, this has given rise to an equally multitudinous and complex number of systems. There are many different subsystems: MBTI, socionics, objective personality, CPT, John Beebe, Linda Behrens, and these are all the same theory, just explained in different ways. So while the list goes on and people continue to make sub-theories and different frameworks, I believe that the problem that we now face within this community is a problem of consistency. If we want any semblance of scientific recognition to make way in the future for typology, we need to get on the same page in regards to all of these different systems. And what I believe is that all of these systems are actually explaining the same phenomena, just using different words. I have made it my goal to attempt and reconcile all of these systems, consolidate into a consistent, easily understood framework that no matter where you're coming from, what branch of the MBTI cognitive function socionics community you're from, you will easily be able to pick up on these archetypes. Because if our goal is to better understand each other and find unity, we all have to be calibrated together and understand these systems in the same way. So, I've decided to write a book. But with that, with something as complex as the human experience and personality, I need a lot of data. I need to talk to people, ask questions. I would like to start gathering information that will help us gain insights into the truth behind some of these models. With that being said, if anyone would like to participate in the creation of this simplification on the road to understanding, please reach out. If you don't know anything about typology, don't worry. We'll explain and answer any questions that you have. If you do know a lot about typology, that's even better, because that helps us to see where the differences in communication are. If someone already has an understanding of a certain model, we can use that as calibration and triangulate the best ways for us to view this structure. My hope is that when enough people embody Steinbeck's idea that understanding leads to love, the use of typology will become a catalyst that sets off a chain reaction and a realization that we all want the same things. We may disagree 1% about how to get there, but in the end, that 1% difference doesn't merit war, discrimination, ideological or political conflicts. It is our responsibility to bridge the gap.